And with that, once again, I'd like to thank you for attending this luncheon, and please help me welcome Renee Schofield, Chairman of the Alaska State Chamber of Commerce. Renee?
I also would like to say welcome to Juneau. It's exciting to be here. It's not pouring down rain, at least it wasn't when I was out earlier. And it's not snowing. If you remember last year, we were walking in the slush and the goop, and it was cold. And so thank you for the weather, Kelly. I appreciate that. So it's a really great pleasure to be here again, opening up another legislative session and getting started. And it's exciting also to be here as the chair of the State Chamber and see how many people are here attending today. And I appreciate that, and I thank you for being involved, showing up, and getting the job done. We're really the agency as a chamber who opens the doors to business. We are the people who have the voice, and we are the voice of the Alaska business when we go up to visit the legislators. So it's really important that you're active and you're involved and engaged, and I appreciate that service. The Alaska Chamber is a private, not-for-profit advocacy association and the only business group in Alaska that represents all types of businesses. We formed about 60 years ago as the All-Alaska Chamber of Commerce, and then after statehood, the name was changed to include the word state, so it's the Alaska State Chamber of Commerce. I also would like to say that if you think working with 59 other legislators is a problem, try being the chair of the board of 80 board members. That's what I'm doing. Herding cats, I heard that earlier today. It comes to mind when you're talking about. But what's exciting about that is get your voice heard no matter what size your business is, and that's what the State Chamber does for you. So with that, I would like to recognize our board members who are here today and have been here for the last few days visiting the legislators, and we'll have our board meeting this afternoon. So could the State Chamber board members please stand? If you ever want to hang out with a rockin', fun group of people, there they are. You saw them at your tables. So with that, I'd like to introduce Rachel Petro, who's the president, CEO of the State Chamber. She drives the bus. She gets us all here and doing what we're supposed to do. We're really pleased that Rachel is at the helm, and she really makes things happen. So with that, Rachel Petro.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Renee, and thank you, Kathy. We do have some empty seats up front, so if it's getting a little crowded, please make your way to the front. It's kind of, is this church or what? I mean, come on down. We won't bite. So thank you so much for being here today. We have just under a dozen new legislators that are coming down today. I think that with schedule changes, not everyone has made it, but what we wanted to do was give our new legislators an opportunity to understand what the Alaska Business Roundtable is, a little bit about the Alaska Chamber, a little bit about the Juneau Chamber, and really then we just want to know who you are, and I'm going to ask you, each new legislator, a couple of questions, and we'll just keep it informal and short. And I know that there is a Senate floor session at 1, so I know Senator Click Bishop is here. I haven't seen any other senators walk in, but if he needs to leave a few minutes before 1, we will all understand. So with that, Kathy Romick and I and Andy Rogers of my staff, we're just going to go to each table where there is a new legislator, and I will be asking the question. So the new legislators, be listening. Here are your tough questions. Who are you? And which district or area of the state do you represent? When, where, and how did you arrive in Alaska? And the final one is, what has surprised you most since your arrival in Juneau? So for some of you, it may be the first time you're in Juneau, but the purpose of these questions is just so that we can put a name with a face and learn a little bit about you. And so with that, let's start with Representative Actually, let's start with Senator Click Bishop. Senator.
Sessions that we're not in session.
You can sit in here if you're more comfortable.
Good afternoon. And thank you for inviting me to today's luncheon. I know many of you in the room, and it's a pleasure to be here. And I won't tell any war stories because some of us go back over 35 or 40 years. But it is a pleasure to be here. I'm Senate District C. And for those of you that are not familiar with that district, it runs from Fairbanks, West Fairbanks, all the way down the Richardson Highway to Valdez. And they go back to Glen Allen and go down the Glen Highway. And it stops about the Buffalo Mine Road there out this side of Palmer. It goes west off the Richardson at Paxson and goes clear over almost to the Parks Highway on the Denali Highway, and a lot of real estate. So, second question?
They're so hard I already forgot. Well, why don't you tell us what surprised you most about your arrival in Juneau? Now, I happen to know that you've spent a few months of your life in Juneau at least. So how about for you, we'll modify the question. How about since you arrived in Juneau this session as a legislator?
Well, you know, good question, but in all seriousness, nothing has really surprised me. You know, I was here and served as your Commissioner of Labor for 6 legislative sessions, and it was a pure pleasure to do that and to work with each and every one of you. And when you had your state board stand up, you know, we talked about the fun factor. Now, Hal is the fun factor. So, no surprises. Glad to be here. You know, 2 priorities for me. A good friend there from Fairbanks, Jack Wilbur. Jack, how you doing? Jack tuned me up real good about a month ago on priorities, you know what I mean? I was starting to go sideways a little bit, and those of you that know Jack, he's a man of few words, and I am too, but energy and North Slope declining production is where my focus is, notwithstanding a lot of other important topics in the state, but to me, we have to get those 2 fixed first. Next.
And when, where, and how did you arrive in Alaska? Were you born here, or when did you get here?
Well, let's see. 18 months old, 1959. My dad came here actually in 1950 in the U.S. military, not unlike a lot of us in this room. How many veterans I got in the room? Thanks for serving. So anyway, 18 months old, had a guy in my office here a little bit ago, and he was talking to me about a power project in southeast Alaska and Ketchikan in particular, and he was educating me on Ketchikan, and I said, well, where'd you go to grade school? He said, White Cliff. So I reached on my desk, and I pulled a little model of White Cliff grade school off and showed it to him. I said, what school is this? He said, that's White Cliff. I said, I went to White Cliff too. So I am blessed in the fact that I have a great regional approach to Alaska as I've worked, lived, and or visited your community as a commissioner. I might be the senator from Senate District C, but I'm also everybody else's senator too. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Representative, and this is why we're doing this, is because I don't know how to pronounce your name properly. So I'm not going to even try. I'm going to let you teach us how to properly say your name. Representative.
Thank you. My name is Benny Nagayak. Nagayak means bait or what is it? Bait or smell. I like bait better than smell. I was born in Koktovik. I'm the only, as I tell everybody, I'm the only one born in this room. I'm the only one born in Anwar, and I'm pro-Anwar. So, I'm a former mayor of North Slope Borough, assemblyman. I've served in several boards and commissions throughout the state. I've been in natural resource issues for many years. I was on the local boundary commission and the Alaska Board of Game. You want something fun? Join the Board of Game. And I mean, if it don't kill you, it'll teach you something. So, but I've been involved in this business for a long time, and I'm really happy to be here serving in the legislature, and I hope to bring my experience to fruit here, to bear some fruit, because I've been through some of the issues. Excuse me, boy, that stuff is good, but it comes back. But I've done a lot of things in this state in terms of resource management or I've even worked in the industry. When I first got out of high school, I was 19 years old, and my first job out of high school, I didn't have jobs in Barrow, so I went to Fairbanks to stay with my sister, look around for work. And my first job was a jug hustler in Prudhoe Bay. And I walked that place by foot in the summertime, right through ponds and lakes. I had to right straight line. So I've had the privilege of walking that whole area during the summer. And so I know how it is to work within the fields. And so, and I've done it, and I support the industry. I support everything that brings the state its wealth. Most of the wealth comes from rural Alaska, and we must work together to get the resources to market. I like to tell people we're resource rich but road poor. And I really want a road to my house. I do. I mean, my cousins in Nookston, they always brag they got trucks and stuff. They go all the way down to Fairbanks and Anchorage and beyond. And here I'm poor Benny over in Barrow, can't even get on the road, to get out. But I mean, we have a lot of resources in our part of the world. And over in District 40, it covers a whole lot. My district covers a whole lot of area. And so it's huge, all the way from Canada down to Kotzebue. And I can't escape my relatives because everywhere I go, there they are. And I got to be nice to all of them. So I can't play favorite. So, But we do have a lot of resources in that part of the world, and we've just found out there's billions of tons of copper they found out down by Ambler. So there's a lot of resources, but you can't get to them. We need to get to those resources, and so like I say, we're resource rich, but road and rail poor. I forgot that word, rail, and so I'm surprised that it still rains here. When I came, I was 6'2". I'm 5'8" now. I melted. So I'm very excited to be here, and we're willing to work with my colleagues and all of you in this state. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative. And before we get too much further in the program, I would like to recognize Representative Munoz, who represents Juneau. She's with us today, a returning legislator. Thank you for being with us. And thank you for staving off the rain. And Senator Kelly, you're next. I'm not sure you heard the questions, so the questions are, who are you? What district do you represent? And where, when, and how did you arrive in Alaska? And then what has surprised you most since your re-arrival, I guess, in Juneau?
Good afternoon. I'm Pete Kelly. I'm from Fairbanks. And one more time? How I got to Alaska.
Yeah,
Okay.
when, where, how. Sometimes there's interesting stories related to those.
It's not that interesting. My mom gave birth to me in Fairbanks.
It might have been interesting to her.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it was. The interesting thing, I guess, about that was that I was in the Senate before, and the old Senate offices, they're in a different place now, but the old Senate offices in Fairbanks were in the old hospital. And I was actually, my office was in the place that I was born. I mean, in the place that I was born, not just the building. It was actually the maternity ward. I thought that was kind of interesting. So, my goals are probably very similar to Click Bishop's. I don't know if John Coghill's here, but any of the Fairbanks legislators that you talk to are going to tell you that energy for Fairbanks is critical on our list. We have to solve that problem. There's no question about it. We're starting to see for sale signs popping up here and there in places that you wouldn't have expected them. And you start talking to people that you've played on the softball team with for years, or you've had little dinner clubs with, and we're thinking of moving out, and then by gosh, some of them do. And we've talked to people, some of our friends that moved to North Dakota, and as you're having the conversation with them, and they're living in a place that was like Fairbanks in 1979 and 80, well, probably 1980, 82, 83, where it's just booming. And it became very clear talking with these folks, they're not coming back. They're gone. And we're just going to have to deal with that. But we can solve the problem, and that's probably the top of my list. The second thing on my list is I'm co-chair of Senate Finance, and I have to competently and timely produce an operating budget for the state of Alaska, obviously in conjunction with my colleagues and with the people in the House. But that's going to consume most of my time down here. And I'm really lucky to have in the Senate John Coghill and Click Bishop, who are going to be doing the yeoman work on the energy for Fairbanks in the Energy Committee. Where are you, Click? I know you're out there. I just saw you a few minutes ago. Oh, he's heard my story before. I guess he took off. Why I ran for office? I honestly didn't want to. I'm really happy to be back. I got to tell you, when I ran for office, I was against it. I got vetoed by my wife, who said, well, why not? So we did. I had a lack of enthusiasm during the election because I knew what was ahead of me because I've done this before. And then after I got elected, I thought, I don't want to go back to Juneau. I lived there for so many years. I just don't want to go back into that horrible grind. The schedule is just maddening. And then I walked in the building and I saw so many faces of people that I've known for so many years and really missed. And most people in my time in the legislature have always been very kind to me. And so I'm just glad to be back among them and hope I can not let them down in how business is conducted in the legislature, at least my part of it. Any other questions?
I think you covered them all.
Okay.
I don't think there's been too many surprises for you since you've arrived in Juneau, since you've spent a lot of time here. So
No,
And
there weren't a lot of surprises. Actually, the first day of Senate Finance, when I left, I was co-chair of Finance for the operating budget. And I sat at the head of the table, and I was looking down, and the grain of the table, it was so familiar to me. And I had this odd kind of Twilight Zone moment where I know the memories of the last 10 years, they're still here, but the time collapsed, and it's literally like I didn't leave. I mean, like I really didn't leave. It's odd. So, yes, I know kind of what's coming and those kinds of things, so it isn't the learning curve isn't as intimidating to me, though there are some things I've forgotten, obviously.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Lynn Gaddis.
Thank you. And yes, my name is Lynn Gaddis. It was pronounced Gaddis. I know people are struggling with it here, so it's Gaddis. Thank you. I represent the greater Wasilla area. I've lived there for the last 25 years. Previous to that, a few years in Anchorage, and previous to that, Dillingham. And I just passed the mayor of Cordova and We talked about my time in Cordova. I went to high school in Cordova. I was raised up north in the interior in the Gulkana area through my 8th grade years. My parents were school teachers, and that took them to Cordova. And I came to Alaska when my mom did, in 1957. And we won't go into the details about how and so on and so forth. My passion is definitely the state of Alaska. I've lived on the road system and off of the road system. So I like to think that I can certainly recognize my colleague from up north's issues as far as wanting a road to his house. I too think that Alaska is a very young state. Now that we're 50 plus, I won't mention that I'm right there along with the state, but we're no longer teenagers. You know, it's time for us to get those roads, get those that infrastructure that allows us to get to the resources that we are looking for, that we've had the opportunity, so that our kids can have that same opportunity getting to those same places. So I'm very, very passionate about that. I chair education on the House side. I've recently just stepped down from the Matsu School Board so I could step up to the legislature. So education is my passion. I will be looking at different ways to deliver education and truly different mindsets, that pioneering, that courageous spirit that I think Alaskans are at looking at how we deliver and how we look at education versus kicking the same can down the same road, doing the same things. So this will be an exciting year, and I think that there's some great folks that I'm working with, so I'm real excited to be here. As far as anything that I didn't expect that I'd have to carry lipstick in my pocket at all times and a couple sets of glasses. But really, beyond that, I'm good to go. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Representative. And now for a returning representative, Representative Gabrielle Ledoux.
Hi, my name is Gabrielle Ledoux, and I represent the Muldoon District of Anchorage. But I've met many of you over the course of the years because prior to that, I represented Kodiak. And when I was in Kodiak, I really wanted a road to my house, too, but that would have had to have gone over quite a bit of water. So what's the next question? I got to Alaska December 31st, 1978. And I'd been living in New York City, and it was kind of a lark to go to Alaska. I mean, I was working at a law firm in New York and complaining about the hours that we were working and the pay, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And somebody said, you know, why don't you think about going to Alaska? So it was about the time that headhunters started calling, and I keep talking to these people and saying, I would like a job in Alaska, and most of them thought that I was nuts. But ultimately, somebody called, and they had a job up here, and I decided to go the long way. I went through Asia, so it took me 6 weeks. It took me 6 weeks to get from New York City to Alaska, and I celebrated New Year's Eve in Tokyo on December 31st, 1978. And of course, I was a lot younger then, so when I left the next morning from Tokyo, I thought, you know, I'm going to be arriving in Alaska at around 10, 11 o'clock. I'm going to celebrate it again in Alaska. So that's how I arrived. You know, after being in the Capitol building for 4 years, nothing can surprise me.
Thank you so much. Representative Josephson, is that right?
Okay. Well, I'm reminded why each of these candidates won their elections, because they're very good public speakers. I came here in 1964. I was born a few months after the earthquake, and I represent House District 15. It is the University of Alaska Anchorage area and Providence campus. So I call it the Near East of Anchorage. It's Midtown. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to talk to you all. It's been a great learning experience. I'll do the last question first. What surprised me? I've done a couple legislative sessions here before, and I knew about the rapid pace of things. But that's sort of the thing that has already stuck with me in the first 10 days, is sort of inundation of information and, needing desperately to find time to sort of pause and reflect and ponder. So that's sort of what I'm shooting for. I'll let you know that I do have a road to my house. I've had that road for as long as I've had the house, so it's there. But I applaud others having roads to their homes, too. My caucus is the Democratic Party caucus. We believe that it's important to have a dissenting voice, that even accidentally there can't be just one answer, and I'm not suggesting that the majority sees it that way. I know that they have multiple views within their caucus. So we view our job as to applaud the good ideas, offer other ideas. We're focused on education, the economy, and energy. And so those are sort of our focuses. I campaigned, I called it a smart development candidate. So I was on record supporting Chuck Chi. I would say that Shell's making that difficult for me, and I wish they'd stop. But I support that. I support ANWR development. I support a large diameter gas line. And some of those positions aren't particularly bold, but nonetheless, they're I think, the right positions. There are other circumstances where I look at what we have and I sort of reflect about whether this can be improved or whether, tourism and fishing could be compromised and whether those are compromises we should make. So that's sort of where I am. I'll let you know that sort of as a background, I'm, I think, the only certified public school teacher in the legislature right now. And I do believe greatly in public education. It needs vast improvement, and I want to work on that. And I have a background in law enforcement. I was a former prosecutor, so I believe in the social contract and people sort of following the law. I like to think I do most of the time. And anyway, stop on by my office, and I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.
Okay, I'm looking for, I don't know where Representative Isaacson sat down. Where are you? Thank you. Okay.
Since everyone else, unlike my predecessors up here, I am known as the person of very, very few words. Right, Jack? Fred? Jeff? Actually, I have a story about Jeff. He likes walking. Okay, no, I better not. I am the representative from House District 1, which is North Pole and Eielson. North Pole, many people don't know, is actually one of our energy industry centers. We have 2 of the remaining 4 oil refineries in our little town. We make enough electricity that we can actually fuel the needs of the interior. We use expensive diesel. We account for, Flint Hills accounts for a lot of the revenue of the railroad, or did at one time, when our policies were really pro-development and pro-using our resources. I've had the pleasure of being mayor of the city of North Pole for the last 6 years. And so I joined our mayor's caucus with Benny. He's number 40 and I'm number 1. Just remember that. I'm also the first representative representing Eielson Air Force Base who actually served at Eielson Air Force Base. I came up in the mid-'70s. Thank you. On behalf of all those who served, thank you. And I came up as a Russian linguist. And so when one of our former governors was talking about our proximity, and Tina Fey said, yeah, we can see Russia from there, it's true. And that's how I got to Eielson, because we're even 300 miles closer to Russia than Anchorage is. So, but it's a pleasure to be able to serve them. Now, the thing is, our refineries are there because Eielson and Fort Wainwright. And we've got to keep our bases intact for our economy. We've got to build Alaska. We have to have access. The state constitution is something that I have written on my wall, and it's Articles 8. The mission of Alaska is to encourage the settlement of the land by the development of the resources. They have to benefit the communities first. And then it is the legislature that must provide for the utilization and development and conservation of those resources, all the resources owned by the state. And that's my passion, that's my drive, is to help make sure that this happens. We push that ball down a little bit further. I would like to do it radically much faster, but I understand we do things slow rather than fast in order to get anything done at all. So, the last question, I have been surprises. I asked one of the lobbyists, how long have I been coming down here? And he says, well, at least since 93. And I said, well, and what have I always heard? No. So what should I say to people? No. So I'm getting that down. So the nice thing about it is the collegial attitude that we have, and especially in the majority caucus, and even with our minority brethren, we do have a desire to actually see Alaska become a state and build our ability to have a diversified economy that will last for future generations after us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative. So while I'm walking back to give this to the next new legislator, I would like to invite everyone here to our legislative reception this evening at Capitol Office on Seward Street from 5 to 7. It'll give us a chance to actually have more meaningful conversations, but this is great, putting faces with names and some interesting information. Representative Reinbold.
Thank you. Okay, my name is Representative Laura Reinbold, and I'll start out with the area that I serve is Eagle River. How I got to Alaska was I was born here, so I didn't have much choice in that, but I'm absolutely delighted that I was born here, and I made sure that my children were born here, and actually my husband's born here as well. So we've got an all-Alaskan-born family. My dad was the site manager of CLEAR, the anti-ballistic early warning system up there, so we in the Clear and Enan areas where my roots began. And then I do have an identical twin sister. And so if you guys see me in Anchorage and you see me here, there's actually two of me. So just wanted to yeah, exactly. I ended up graduating from East, and then I do have a degree in business administration. My background is in healthcare, education, and also business. In regards to priorities, what my priorities are basically are very much in alignment with the Chamber, being a business person. I strongly agree with the priorities of the Chamber. With a few additions, I would like to see a long-term plan for Alaska. What do we want Alaska to look like in 10, 20, 30, 40? And I think without a plan, you don't have the proper direction to accomplish what you need. So I'd like to do the hard work and help get the minority caucus, the majority caucus, the Senate, getting all the bodies and helping us to develop a plan. I know it'll be a lot of hard work, but I think it's the right thing to do. In regards to education, I'm honored to be the education vice chair. I'm also a strong, passionate believer in education reform. I think we can do better. I think we're doing well in a lot of places, and we need to model that behavior and reward that behavior, but I think that there's a lot of areas that are struggling in this state, and I think education reform, encouraging competition and putting the parents in charge and empowering the teachers that are doing well and getting the resources to the classroom are very, very important. In regards to the committees that I was given as a freshman, I have regulatory review. So I am chair of regulatory review. I am vice chair of education, and I'm vice chair of labor and commerce. So I'm very happy with the leadership positions, even though they're going to be tough. I'm also on 3 additional subcommittees, and I'm a total of 6 committees. So it's going to be very, very busy, but I like being busy. Keeps me out of trouble, so I like that. What I'm looking forward to, we've been really busy, and it's been wonderful here, but I'm really looking forward to action. I'm looking forward to things actually happening here in Juneau. So I can't wait till it gets even busier and where things start happening and bills start getting passed and helping shape Alaska's future. So I'm really, really happy about that, and I just want you all to know that I'm looking forward to working with everybody and helping shape a brighter future for Alaska.
Thank you, Representative Reinbold. And next we have Representative Chris Tompkins.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Christ Tompkins. I came to Alaska courtesy of my mom and dad in 1989, and I'll get to the question about what surprised me about the legislature later. I'd say that my year of birth has been a surprise to at least 2 people in the Capitol who have mistaken me as staff in the first week, which I greatly enjoyed. It was a fun moment. But was born in Sitka. I represent Sitka in rural southeast Alaska, which is home. It's a part of the state I care a lot about. Juneau, I think, is part of that region, even though it's not in my district, and so it's nice to be here. And I just got out of college very recently, and I think there's a culture in my generation where, and this is something I shared in the Sitka Chamber earlier this year, that if you want to save the world, which is something, it's a common ideal shared by college students, you used to join a nonprofit and go to Africa and try to feed the starving children, something, idealistic and something that resonates with the heartstrings. And I would say, at least among my friends, and including myself at college, there's a sort of an increasing culture of looking to solve the world's problems or the state's problems or the region's problems through entrepreneurialism. And that's something I'm deeply interested in. And it's a perspective I know is shared by many people of my generation and my age. And it's a perspective I hope to bring to the legislature. I have other priorities too. But that's something important to me. And I think a barometer of the health of the communities we all come from is the persistence of the younger generations, if they're able to stay in the community in which they're born and raised. And I'm from Sitka, and I'm seeing a lot of my friends leave, not on their own accord, but by economic necessity. And that troubles me. And I'm lucky, I'm gainfully employed now, at least for 2 years. But I'd like for my friends and peers from high school to have the same opportunity. And the other communities in the district I represent, which include villages, Angoon and Klukwan, Cake, are struggling for their very survival. And so to an even greater degree, I'm concerned about their economic livelihood and opportunities for people of my generation in those villages and those communities. And as far as what has surprised me here, there've been a fair number of surprises, although I tried to diligently prepare for session. But I spent a lot of time in Juneau growing up. I was in Sitka. I came here for sport events, other extracurriculars in high school. Spent a lot of time downtown. The first time I ever really stepped foot in the Capitol was last month. So I am amazed what a world unto itself the Alaska legislature is, and that there's a whole universe of personalities and people and things to learn that I am learning, but I'm amazed how different that is from the Juneau I knew growing up. And I was swimming laps last night at the pool downtown, doing some intervals, burning off some stress, and I ran into a friend that I knew from high school, and it's like they're parallel worlds here in Juneau. And so I'm strongly committed to make sure I have one foot firmly planted in the real world as these 90 days roll by, and then I can occupy both the legislative world and the real world, both of which are important and wonderful. But thank you for the opportunity to come.
Absolutely. Thank you. I want to make sure that I didn't miss anybody that may have joined us. Are there any other new legislators in the room? Any other returning legislators that I've missed? Okay, I just want to make sure that we've got to everyone. Well, a very, very special thank you to all of you for making time today to come down here and participate in our kickoff Alaska Business Roundtable. As stated earlier, the Alaska Business Roundtable is really hosted throughout session by Juneau Chamber, and they do the bulk of the work. We show up whenever we can as the Alaska Chamber, but we are proud to partner with you guys on that. Future luncheons throughout session take place in the Hangar Ballroom, so we encourage you to join us as often as you are able. And I think if you'd like to sponsor the Alaska Business Roundtable, where's Kathy? I go to see Kathy or Abby out front. Know that we'd be happy to take your sponsorship. So thank you to ConocoPhillips and all of our sponsors today of the Alaska Business Roundtable for lunch today. And let's give them a round of applause. Just another reminder, we do have our legislative reception this evening at Capitol Office, and for you ladies out there, it's kind of across the street from Shoefly, starting at 5 o'clock. So we hope to see you there. And then just for our fly-in participants, just make sure that one member from each of your group leaves our legislative priorities with your legislator or the staff with whom you meet. And then, of course, we want to be good guests, so if you have to excuse yourself from a meeting to make it on time to your next one, please do that. And then again, 5 o'clock tonight, we will meet here in the lobby and just walk over. A few of you don't know where you're going. It's really easy. Just follow the crowd. Again, thank you to Juneau for hosting us, and we look forward to seeing you and working with you, particularly new legislators and returning legislators. So thanks again, and I think we're early. So we've just bought you 10 minutes. So thank you very much.